Hey everybody, how's it going? How's it going? Rez, Dr. Von Chilla, how the hell are you? I think you're both here. I see the typing, but I don't see any viewers. So it's been a hell of a day. Today was our C4, so it's the Central Canada Comic Convention, 2016. We've been going for, oh my goodness, I don't know how many years we've been going. I've been taking my son for quite a few years. It's always kind of I'm liking it more as time goes on. It's always been kind of a hit and miss type of convention, as a lot of the big conventions are. I'm sure everybody knows this. The big ones are kind of more pop culture focused. So this one, for example, there's video games, there's t-shirts, there's we even have wrestling. Like we have a local small kind of wrestling circuit. There's video game stations where you can play video games. There's artists alleys. There's some talks. That's one thing that I think our convention is lacking a little bit on. I'd like to see more kind of talks. When I went to the Winnipeg Comic Arts Festival, they had some good kind of seminars on coloring comics, for example, was one of my favorite ones. I wish that our big convention had more stuff like that. I don't know why it doesn't. Maybe they just don't think that there's much call for it. I don't really know. Anyway, so as I said, over the years, it's been hit and miss. In the past couple of years, it's been getting a little better. There are comic guys there. Now that I've been going, I see a lot of the same faces. Now that I've been going routinely for the past number of years, I see the same faces, and I know which booths to stay away from for the most part, and I know which ones I'm going to go to and get a really fair deal, and even get on Sundays 50% off stuff, which is one of the reasons we go on Sunday. Sunday, it costs less for me to get in than it does on a Saturday. We had a free pass for my son this year, so it didn't cost him a dime. It goes from ages 5 to 12, which is really great. And it was just the two of us that went, and then we met up with a couple of his friends from school, which was a lot of fun. He really got a kick out of that. But we were there a little bit earlier than them. They had some delays in their schedule, so they joined us kind of after we'd been there about an hour, hour and a half kind of thing, which was great. It really gave me a chance to kind of start digging and not have to worry. And my son was digging in the boxes and stuff too, but he was really focused on when are his buddies going to show up? When are my buddies going to show up? So when they did, we just they went nuts, and they really focused back on Pokemon is their big thing. And what are you going to do? I mean, they're kids. They like what they like, and it's Pokemon, even though we're at a supposed comic convention. And that's, I think, one of the things that kind of bothers me about it being called a comic convention. It's like comics are such a small part of the convention now that maybe it's 35% of the convention, 40% of the convention. It's so much other stuff. So either way, I did manage to get quite a stack of things that I'll show you. If you've been a viewer of the channel for a long time, you know Nerdvision is saying, I think we're in the same city. Is that true, Nerdvision? You don't live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, do you? Is that true? That would be just crazy. I did get a chance to hit up the Artist Alley eventually. We kind of made it to that way, the convention center. So our convention center in town has grown kind of by a city block. That's crazy, Nerdvision. Holy crap. What a small freaking world. Nerdvision, a local boy. Get the hell out of town. You went on Saturday. That's incredible. I hear that Saturday was really busy. Today was actually surprisingly busy. A lot of the dealers that I was talking to had said the same thing, that they were surprised that they had probably the same amount of traffic as they did yesterday, which normally isn't the case. So our convention center has grown kind of a city block, and the way they had the convention laid out this year, I thought was one of the best in years. There seemed to be a little more room with everything. Everything was kind of on the same floor, and they actually had kind of a cafeteria lunchroom downstairs, which was really fantastic. Because before you were kind of sitting in hallways and finding seats where you could to try to have something to eat. Not that we normally eat there because it's a little pricey and it's just hot dogs and shit like that. So it's nothing that we really, nothing that we really like base our lives around. But I really like the layout of it, and I hope they keep it up. I like that the Artists Alley was a lot more spacious this year. Last year, that was one of the things I really noticed. The aisles were really narrow and you couldn't really sit and chat with people too easily. There was a lot of space. So anyway, one of the things that I was going to get was a copy of Matthew Dick's Winterpeg for the one and only Rez, who's here. So I have a copy of this to send you, Rez. I'm going to try to send you out a package this week. I'm hoping Tuesday I can get everything sorted for you. I've got a few things to send your way. So that's one of them there. He also did a print for the convention that I picked up a copy for myself, Winterpeg print, which I'm looking forward to sticking up on the wall somewhere behind me. There, I'm really running out of space. As you can see, the new stuff I got from this Goblenko ended up kind of taking over somebody else's space, and then we're getting into lamp territory over there. So that's really cool. He's a really, really nice guy, and he was sharing a space with Nelly, I believe was her name. I'm blanking on her name, that did this Tierra Negra, and she had a print as well of the front cover done in red, which was really nice. So I couldn't pass that up. So it was nice to see the both of them. I sat and chatted with them a little bit, and I was telling them just about the small comic convention that we have here, the one that I usually sell at, the one that's kind of through Thirsty's flea market there. And I know that the organizer of that flea market convention has wanted to kind of expand that little convention a little bit more. He wanted to try to bring some artists in. He wants to kind of get people to dress up. The small convention is really just comic centric. There's a few toys and things, but it's probably like 85% comics, you know, which is really great. You see some of the same faces that set up at the big convention at the small one. It's really, really cheap to get in. There's still a ton of great books. And I really like that one a lot. So I'm hoping that they manage to get hooked up with the small convention. Holy crap, Comic Guy rules. Another Winnipegger. This is Winnipeg City here. I can't even believe it. How's it going, Garrett? It's been a hell of a long time. Did you go to the convention this weekend? Did you make it out there? We saw a couple of people today that we knew, but we were kind of just chasing the kids around and trying to wrangle these kids just to kind of keep people in line. So the other local thing that I got was from a guy, Scott A. Ford. And again, it's a guy that I met at the Winnipeg Comic Arts Festival. Super, super nice kid. Really nice kid. Romulus and Remus was something that I picked up from him. He also did, he was on a panel about comic book coloring that was, again, really, really great. At the time when I saw him, he had a prototype of what was sort of based on the idea of a web comic put into print form. And what it is, he was going to do this accordion style comic book and get it bound, but he was having problems at the time finding somebody to do the book for him and to get it printed up properly, and he was just kind of going through those motions. I saw him here, and when I walked by him the second time, I only had a brief chance to talk to him the first time. I overheard him talking about the book, and he's like, yeah, it stretches out to about 20 feet, and I have a couple here for sale. And I immediately stopped, and all the kids and the other parents got away from me because I couldn't believe that he actually got some made. He said he printed 300 of them. I think he said he assembled, did he say he assembled 40 for the convention? And it's called Giant's Well, and it's a nice kind of hardcover, but you can read it. Let me see if this will work here. You can read it like a conventional comic. You can flip the pages and kind of read the story, or you can, let me see if I can just give you a little sample of this. The whole thing folds out in accordion style, and you can follow the story all the way from the top of the picture to the bottom. And it's a beautifully done book. He did a really great job. He's such a creative guy. And then even on the inside, if I can do this, he added in a couple of pages of some extras where he talks about some of the concept for it, some of the character design, what else? Some of the environment designs, and then layouts and some photos of him assembling the book, putting it together. And then he was really kind enough to, I got number 25, whoop, let me see, number 25 out of 300. And he was kind enough to use some stamps and draw a little picture and sign it for me and personalize it for me, which is really, really fantastic. He's, yeah, he's a kid that I think is definitely going to go somewhere. He's kind of self-taught. When I saw him at the Winnipeg Comic Arts Festival, he was just talking about how he's just gone out and done this stuff. He's always just been creative, and he worked, I think he said he worked for a design company, or still does work for a design company. I'm not really sure, but I'm just really impressed with this. This is something else. Yeah. Comic Guy Rules is saying, I went Saturday around 10. It was great. Not much comics though. Some dealers were way too expensive. 100% agree with you. There was one guy, as soon as you came in the door to the left, one of the entrances to the left, he's a little bit shady. Some of his prices, like for example, Rez was talking about it earlier on her show, the Shade the Changing Man by Steve Ditko. He had that run there, and the prices on that were ridiculous. Even though they had them, he had everything marked at 50% or 60% off. Even with the 60% off discount, it was still a few dollars more than what I've seen them for all around the city when I was kind of grabbing up those. So, and then some of his, he had small stickers with small print saying that that a particular book wasn't part of the sale, but yet they were mixed in the boxes that were part of everything was 60% off. So a little bit sketchy. The one guy that I did go to, Comic Guy Rules, is Garrett, I guess. It's weird. I always call people by their handle. Is the guy that you always go to when you go to the mini convention. And I got some books from him because his stuff is always reasonably priced, and the quality of the stuff is really good too. So that book looks sweet. It really does. And Dr. Von Gilla says hizzle zizzle, hizzle shizzle. So it really is a good book. When he gets some more compiled, I don't know, I'd like to talk to him about trying to maybe get some more that I'd be glad to send to some people, or if you want to send me some money, I can pick you up one. I think it was, this one cost $40, I think is what it was. But again, like when it comes to locals, I don't mind spending a little bit more. Like it's just, again, just so, it's so nice to see the local talent, these young people just getting into it, and just kind of passing some money on and support to them, because you know that's where they're going to be going. Nerd Vision says, agreed. There was a new vendor, but it was still overpriced. But I'm happy that there's a new collection that's not cherry picked. Yeah, for sure. I think I might know the guy that you were the guys that you're talking about. I did see a couple of new faces there. Those places didn't have as many. I usually end up going to the kind of, not Galaxy Comics, but to the other kind of big dealer. They always have a 50% off sale every single year. This year, what I did was I wrote down comics that I was looking for, and I wrote down a range for like 6.0 to kind of 8.0 of prices that I'd seen, and everything that I got from them that was on that list was well under those prices that I would be willing to pay. which is really good. Like I got some kind of $10 Daredevil books, for example, which I'll show you. So I think the stuff that I got was really reasonably priced, but there was, I mean, it's the big convention. There's going to be stuff that you're going to just get taken advantage of, no doubt, because they know where they are and they know, and some of the dealers, I mean, obviously they're going to be cashing in on this movie event and stuff like that. I'll get to some of that in a little bit. Hey, JT, how's it going? Let's see. I remember the days when Shade the Changing Man were dozens deep in the 25-cent boxes. Yeah, I believe it. You know, and again, like I only paid a couple of dollars for most of my issues. The number 1 and number 8 were the ones that cost a little more. But I mean, the ones in between, I was paying like, I still only paid like $2 or $3. And with his discount, they were still kind of $5 or $6, which I thought was a bit ridiculous. Rez says, I just need to give you my wallet, Terrence. So you can buy me whatever you want, whatever you see fit. Yeah, totally. Just kind of getting back there. Yeah, so we'll just go on from there. One thing that I won't spend too much time about, people who have watched again for a while know that we're big Legendary game players. So we got the Captain America 75th anniversary expansion for Legendary, which we're very excited about. We absolutely love this game. The original a little more than the Villains one. We like the Villains game, but the original Legendary is a lot of fun. I think it's a really great game. Even my wife, who couldn't really, at first, she couldn't really give two shits about superheroes. She loves this game now. She thinks it's really good. So that was kind of nice. And one of my son's friends was saying, one of my son's friends, his mom was saying that they have the game at home, but then they've tried to play it and they just can't make heads or tails of it. So we're going to try to have them over and we'll kind of do like a big teaching session and all get to play together, which I think will be a lot of fun to incorporate like 5 or 6 players. Back in the day, I used to have all of these magazines from Fantagraphics. I used to have a lot of stuff from Fantagraphics. I used to have records. I had a lot of stuff that just kind of has gone by the wayside over the years. But this one in particular, this entire series, I don't know whatever happened to it. I even had some early Peter Bagge stuff before he went on to doing Neat Stuff. A lot of his kind of work for newspapers and stuff like that. So I found Neat Stuff. The prices on these aren't what I paid. So I found a single issue of Neat Stuff to kind of add back to what remaining magazines I have. I mean, it's all stuff that I've read, but I can't not have this book. I really, really love Peter Bagge. And he's just, you know, again, anybody who knows my channel knows that this means a lot to me, this book. Found a couple of Comics Journal, and this is what I actually did pay for them. They had about 4 issues. I just picked 2 of them they were kind of, I think they were all like $5 a piece. There was a few that I already had. It's a magazine that I don't find that much around town anymore. There was a time where they seemed to kind of appear everywhere that I looked. It's always an entertaining read. There's always some interesting interviews in it. So I picked up, this is issue number 85, and then I picked up issue number 104 because it has a Skip Williamson interview. And the snappy Sammy Smoot stuff that I've read in the past, I really, really like. So I'm curious to see what he has to say in the Comics Journal. It's one of those magazines, and I've said it before, it can be a little, I don't know, they can be a little arrogant and they can be a little fucking hoity-toity and that sort of thing. They're always interesting, but some of the, I don't know, some of the stuff they talk about is a little much sometimes. So that's it for magazines. One of the things I found today that I had mentioned to a few people that if I see it, I probably would pick up the entire series, and it's not bad because they're pretty much cover price. A couple of variant issues as well. I managed to score myself some Black Hammer, the first 4 issues of Black Hammer. So this is a Jeff Lemire variant for issue number 1. I think this was just the regular cover for issue number 2. And I think another variant for issue number 3. And then I think just the regular cover for issue number 4. So I'm really excited to dig into this one after hearing pretty much every single person on YouTube talk highly of that book. I'm really looking forward to digging into that quite a bit. And $5.50, like I said, it's kind of what the $4 US would translate to here in Canada. So I wasn't too worried about paying that much, especially since I think even at Galaxy, that first issue has kind of gone up in price. Ooh, neat stuff. Yeah, Dr. Von Schill, it's neat stuff, and Peter Bagge is just really, really great. Speaking of zines, I've been looking high and low for some issues of 00, says Rez. Yeah, I think I might have seen some at one of the comic shops here in town. I should have a look to see if they still have any. I'm still looking for the Gil Kane cover stories of the Comics Journal. Yeah, I don't know if I have one of those. I have quite a few Comics Journal that I've just been collecting, like I said, over the years, over many, 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 many years. I kind of pick up one or two when I do see a box of them, just because, like I said, they're always interesting to flip through. For me, it's kind of like, it's the same idea of going through the old price guides and stuff. It's great to read those articles in the old price guides. But some of these are really good, especially when they talk like reviewing some of the comics and stuff that are coming out at the time. Kind of that idea of putting things into context. I really like that. Galaxy is the main shop that I go to. Yeah. I have a subscription box there. I go to all the shops in town. I go to Comic Factory as well too. Yeah. I used to live across the street from, what is it, on Cord and Mighty Comics there. I go to Book Fair because we live on Valor Road near Polo Park, if you know where that is, Nerd Vision. So I've hit Book Fair a few times. Book Fair is a place I'd been going to since I was a kid, and it's been the same women that have run it the whole time. So I still go there. They're fairly pricey. I usually go there if I'm looking for a new issue, and I just haven't had a chance to get all the way down to Galaxy Comics because it's a little far for me. Where else do I go? I go to Red River Bookshop still, because I love that place and I love that guy there. He's just he's a real character. Yeah, and Garrett, yeah, that's Garrett's shop, Comic Factory as well. Jared is a really nice guy. He's great. I was there the other day and just kind of sitting and chatting with him briefly. Really, really nice dude. So one of the things I had on my list was I'm really looking forward to this Avengers series that starts on Wednesday, with Del Mundo doing art, Mark Waid writing, and the story is going to be focused on Kang. I've always been interested in Kang as a character. I've got a whole bunch of issues. There was a while that I was collecting, many years ago now, I was collecting kind of all the Kang stories and all the books that he was featured in, had a list going, and I was reading them all in order of his appearances and stuff. When I revisited the list, there was a couple of things that I wanted to get, and on looking through this, I don't know how this one relates. I wonder if it was a mistake on the website or maybe in my writing down the numbers. Captain America and the Falcon number 176 apparently is part of that Kang timeline, but on a flip through, I don't see him in it whatsoever. So that might have been an error on my part, but I'm not a huge Captain America fan. So it's not a book that I'd normally buy, that's for sure. But it was cheap, and like I said, at the time on my list, it said that it was part of Kang. Yes, DVC, I do have a handwritten list. I also have the app as well that I usually use a lot, but when I was going to the convention, I wanted to have more details written about the books I was looking for, like price ranges and stuff like that, so I knew if I was getting ripped off or not. So it's good to have that handwritten list and then be able to check it off, because I don't have time as I'm going through to stand off to the side and make sure I check it off the app. And every single year that I've gone to this, this is the first year in many years that I haven't bought doubles of one of the issues. The very first time that hasn't happened, because I went back to just a handwritten list. It's just a hell of a lot easier. I was looking for some Defender stuff. In the back of my mind, I knew that things like The Defenders and Doctor Strange, which are two books that I've always been looking for, I knew that they would probably be pricey just because of the movie Doctor Strange coming out and the kind of lead up to the Defenders show. I did see Marvel Feature #1, and it was $250, which is just mental. The guy and I actually started having a conversation about it, about how these comics that are based on TV, they just kind of skyrocket, and then they crash within like 6 months or a year or 2 years or something. So obviously I didn't buy that one. But what I did find for, I think, $10 was Marvel Feature Presents The Defenders #2, so their second appearance, in a really, really nice book, you know, for the money. Like I said, I like the Defenders quite a bit as a team. I have a bunch, because I'm such a huge Doctor Strange fan, is kind of how I got into that, really. And it's a book that my son and I want to read together. We want to read the series together. So this is pretty cool to find their second appearance. And then on the Doctor Strange note, I did see quite a few. I'm collecting Doctor Strange Volume 1, which are the ones that happen directly after Strange Tales. They had a few there. I was surprised how many I found, and actually how reasonably they were all priced. There was nothing that was really crazy. The only one that I bought, though, was issue 170, which is a beautiful book, and the interior art is just unreal. I really, really like it. And this book is in really nice shape, and didn't cost me very much at all. This was one of the many that I got that were 50% off. So this one was a really nice score. The other ones that I saw, there was a couple more that I needed that I saw, but they were in such rough shape. They were dirt cheap, obviously, but they were in such rough shape that, I don't know, this is one of the series that I'd like in a little bit higher than kind of reader grade. You know, they don't have to be new mint, but I do want them kind of mid-grade, you know, something that's kind of put together and, you know, yeah, just something a little nicer. So yeah, I agree. This is a really nice looking book in person. I don't know how it translates on camera, but it's really, really sharp considering how little I paid for it. So that was a really nice score. So that brings me, I think I need 3 more issues and I've got this entire run. I've already got all the Volume 2, I guess I've got that whole series complete. So then I guess it'll be going back to start picking up some more Strange Tales. I'm saving the best for last. Normally it would be Daredevil books, but I've got a lot of other books that I think were quite a score. A beautiful copy of Daredevil #47. This was a book I was looking for, and again, I was looking for number 158 and 168. So Frank Miller's first appearance and Elektra's first appearance. And I mean, same thing. The books were there, but they were like $150, $200, $250, and they weren't in any sort of 50% off sale. And I just couldn't justify it. I mean, they were in beautiful shape, but I don't know. I just can't justify. I don't know. I just can't bring myself to do it. I can't bring myself to pay that much for a comic. You know what I mean? I know that I'll find them eventually, but I did find some really, really nice old books. This is probably the best of the Daredevil that I found today. Number 47. We're going backwards here. Number 38, which is a really great cover too. Number 37, another really sharp one as well. As Nick would say, nicely centered. Beautiful looking book there. Number 34. And number 33 with another pretty great cover. A few of these are pretty yellowed. The pages are pretty yellowed, but again, everything else was so nice about them that, including the price, that I just couldn't resist. I just had to go for it. Number 24. And finally, number 15, with the amazing subscription crease in it. I don't have many that have such a severe subscription crease. This one is so great. I love having these with the subscription crease, and I'm not even kidding. There's a few that I have that have the subscription crease, but it really just translates into the cover. This one kind of goes all the way through. The idea that I have a book that somebody had delivered to them by mail, you know, folded up and put in their mail slot, is such a great thing to me. I really, really like that a lot. So yeah, 15, pretty awesome. So a nice kind of run of Daredevil there. What is that? Seven more books. I'm getting closer and closer every day to completing that first 300 Daredevils. Let's see what's happening. Rez says, oh yeah, I love me some Black Hammer, no doubt. Cap 176, I bought it off the rack. I believe it. It's awesome. Nervision says he has a handwritten list as well for my X-Men books only. Marvel feature number 3 is an old favorite of mine. Yeah, I didn't see many Marvel feature books, period. There was one, I mean, maybe I missed them at some of the other booths. They might have been organized a different way, or maybe they were such high grade that they had them on the high grade side of their booth, and I didn't generally look at those kind of things. A lovely looking Doctor Strange. DD47, one of my uber favorite Silver Age Daredevils. I first saw it in the Origins of Marvel Comics Fireside book circa 1975. That's awesome. Oh, do you like the sub crease, Terrence? I've still got a few of those around here. That's incredible. Did you have them? I'm assuming that you had them delivered to you, and these are the books that were yours, or did you buy ones that had sub creases? I'm assuming that the answer is going to be these are ones that you had delivered to you when you had a subscription to Marvel Comics. Like I said, I really do love the sub crease. I have nothing wrong. I don't see anything wrong with it whatsoever. It's again to do with I love putting things in their time and place. I love that somebody loved these books. I love that there's stamps on the front if there is. I love that these books have been previously read and loved by somebody. I can totally understand the appreciation for having something that's like in new mint condition and it's from the 60s, and I can totally see the appeal in that. But I don't know, to me, something that's been a bit loved is a great thing. So on Rez's show that was just before this, she was talking about the Young Animals line. I was under the impression that Cave Carson was a new character. Oh, he's saying, nah, they were back issue purchases. The only sub I ever had was my aunt buying me a sub of Spidey Super Stories. Cool. And he's got some Neil Adams X-Men and Silver Surfers with sub creases. Awesome. Yeah, we looked at some Silver Surfer. My son and I are really, I think that might be a book that we go after next year when we've kind of saved up a bit of money and things. We both really want to read the first volume of Silver Surfer. And not only that, we want to have the original issues. I know that you can get the reprints. We've got a lot of reprints of other stuff like the first 10 Avengers, the first 10 Daredevil, that sort of thing in nice hardcover books that we found for dirt cheap on Kijiji. But we'd like to get the original Silver Surfers for sure. So I thought that Cave Carson was a character created for the Young Animals line because I'm not that I'm really knowledgeable about a lot of either company's kind of past, but especially DC. I know even less about DC's past when it comes to their comics, especially when you're getting into like the 12-cent and the 15-centers. So I had no idea. So once I found that out, I kind of did a little bit of research and found some old comics that I added to the list that I wanted to keep an eye out for. I found a bunch of them, but they were still kind of out of price range. But I did find this The Brave and the Bold presents Cave Carson Adventures Inside Earth. This is Brave and the Bold number 40. So with a pretty cool cover, and again in pretty nice shape. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this. Like I said, I had no idea that this was a character of any sort of history within DC. But so that was a really nice find. Super excited to get into that. Another one that I've been reading lately that I kind of find every once in a while. And I found quite a few of them today as well, but some of them were in really, really, really rough shape. I did find a couple that were $4 a piece, which is the perfect price as far as I'm concerned. This is Our Fighting Forces featuring The Losers, number 171. And The Losers, number 167. So I think I got about a dozen of these books now, which is great. Sit one day and kind of read the whole bunch of them. Yes, just to show you one more time, it really is a great cover. I really like it. The Brave and the Bold that I saw were fantastic. I even saw some really early Spectre comics as well too, with some just beautiful covers, which I think might be something in the future that I get some more of, because I've always been a big fan of Spectre and Daredevil, or Deadman rather. So, but yeah, I really love this cover. I'm really hoping I find some more Cave Carson stuff. Saw a whole big stack of Plop, but they were so overpriced that I just couldn't even. This was the one thing that I found. I think I found 3 books at that first place that I was telling you about that seemed really overpriced, even though everything was 60% off. I think it was the Losers books and this one that I got from him because they were the cheapest. I think this ended up costing me like $6. Another issue of Plop. I really like this magazine, or I really like this comic, and of course I love the Wolverton covers. So that was a really nice find. He had a lot of Plop magazines, but they were so expensive, even when you took off the discount. Maybe I'm wrong, but isn't that his first appearance? Are you talking about the Cave Carson, Garrett? I'm not really sure if it is. I don't think it is, but I haven't. I can't remember what I had on my list. I didn't put them in kind of order of when they came out. I just put a bunch of titles that I wanted to look for that had Cave Carson in it, but I'm not sure. I should have a look to see if that's the book you were talking about. Oh boy, don't even get me started on war books. Yeah, I mean, the war books are something that I'm just getting into recently. I would love to get some Howling Commando stuff next. There's the Hellcats, I think, as part of this Our Fighting Forces line as well, that I wouldn't mind reading. I'm not a huge war comics guy, but I'm really interested in reading more about the Losers, and especially some of these old DC books. I'm very, very curious about, again, because I don't know that much about them. So on to the meat of the haul. There's a guy named Ferd in town who sells at the small convention. I think I've talked about him before. Yeah, war books are intensely addictive. Beware, Terrence. Enter at your own risk. Yeah, I'll be very careful. He sells some underground comics. Last time I saw him at the mini convention, I bought some books off him. He gave me his contact info. I contacted him through an email to say, hey, if you have anything, these are kind of some titles that I was looking for, because he kind of wanted a general sense of what kind of books I was in the mood for. And I never really heard back from him. So he was at the big convention. And when I saw him, that was the first question I said. I said, hey, did you bring any of your, because in our previous conversation, I'd said if you ever do C4, I always go there. If you remember, bring some boxes of Undergrounds. I'd love to dig through some old boxes of Underground comics. So as soon as I saw him, I asked if he had any. And unfortunately, he didn't bring any from home. But he said, I just today or the other day or whatever he said, came across somebody sold me a box of comics and there was some undergrounds in them. So we kind of put them up on the counter, and it was a short box. It was maybe 3/4 filled. A third of that was underground comics, and I took pretty much everything that he had there because all the undergrounds he had I didn't previously own. And when I showed him the stack, he's like, wow, yes, you really are looking for some. So he gave me a deal on them. He said he got them for a deal. So he gave me a really nice deal, I think. There's a few first editions in here. And then a couple of series that are, pretty sought after too. So really, really glad to have some. The first one is Wet Satin, Women's Erotic Fantasies, #1, with a great Trina Robbins cover. And she does a little short story in this as well. And again, all of these undergrounds are in pretty decent shape for the most part. I've really just hit the underground with absolute force this year. It's unbelievable how many I've just kind of added to my collection this year. That's a great, and it's a Rez, if you're still here, you'd love this book. Speaking of dirty books, this is a dirty book. It looks pretty fantastic. I kind of flipped through most of these as I was rebagging them. From the print mint, Spaced Out. Most of these are anthologies. And this one, I recognize the cover. I've seen the cover before. I don't know much about it. And with some of these, I don't know anything about them. It's just more from that era that I really like. There you go. And this next few here are from a series that I really want to get more of. And these ones can get pretty pricey online. I think they've been reprinted in collected editions as well, but I mean, I want the single issues. It's Yellow Dog. This is #25, and this is kind of an infamous anthology. And I think that's another Trina. Yeah, it's another Trina Robbins on the front there. She's got a really, really great style. Give me one sec here. Speaking of Trina Robbins, another thing that I'm backing, I think that it's within the last day on Kickstarter. This is Minion Yidden. And it's a bunch of Jews and other stuff by Max P. Perlson and Trina Robbins. And it's Bedside Press, which is a local publishing company that are just putting together the funding for this anthology book. So if you are interested in Trina Robbins and underground stuff, this is something to look up. Yeah, just on that tip. Good night, fellow Winnipeg Nerd Vision. I can't believe that we live in the same town. It's such a small world. I can't believe it. Yes, so that's Yellow Dog #25. Yellow Dog #24. Some great covers on these. I see this kind of stuff, and you can really feel the artist behind the covers and just behind the interior art. There's really not much separation as far as when you're reading some kind of bigger publications. You get a sense of the company. Sometimes the kind of direct contact with the artist is lost. It's right there when you see a cover like this. Like, I can see the guy sitting in his dingy apartment just drawing this cover. It's fantastic. Really, really nice. Yellow Dog #19. This is all print mint stuff, I think. So there's #19. And again, these are anthologies with all sorts of artists. I haven't looked through all of these yet. Yellow Dog #18 with a Greg Irons cover, who I absolutely love. Really cool cover, that one. Yeah, busting out of the panels there. And finally, Yellow Dog number 17. I'm not sure how many issues it went. I don't know if 25 was the final issue, but there you go. The devil shitting out the city there. Really, really great cover. Another one that's on my favorite, everybody's favorite underground site. I don't think this was rated very high, but this is a cover that has always stood out to me. It's called Saloon. Geyser Saloon, is that what it says? I can't quite read what it says up in that bubble there, but I think this was just a one-off. This one was the priciest out of the bunch, I think. This is San Francisco Comic Book number 2. I think this is a first edition, a first printing. This is San Francisco Comic Book. I think I only have one other issue, and it's like an 8th printing or whatever printing number it is. This is not something that you come across like this and the Yellow Dog. You just don't come across them. Yes, that Saloon is quite the green, hey? Yeah, it's a really nice green on there. Love it. And I mean, I love the facial features of some of these characters. That's the thing. I mean, the art that you're seeing in a lot of this stuff. I think that's another Irons cover, actually, too. Oh, yeah. It says right there, yeah. Just the art style in this stuff, I really, really love. It just really has always spoken to me. From Last Gasp, an incredible front cover. This is something called Monolith. Looks like a gigantic jukebox. Really, really great cover. I absolutely love this one. The problem, these last 3 are a little oversized. So they don't quite fit in the bags and boards that I have. So I just kept them in the bags and boards that he sold them to me in. He's a really nice guy. I wish that I'm going to try emailing him again. I hope he gets in touch a little quicker this time. I was hoping, there's another guy who lives in Steinbach, Manitoba, who's got a website, Comic World, and he's got a bunch of undergrounds. I don't think he ever makes appearances at the conventions, though. I've kind of hesitated in ordering from him so far because everything on his list online doesn't have prices attached. You kind of send him a list and then he prices things after. I don't really like doing that because I almost feel a little committed to, like, here's the list of books that I want, and then he gives you the prices, and it just makes for confusion as far as, like, okay, well, I want these ones but not those ones, and maybe that one, and that sort of thing. I just kind of wish people would just price their shit when they have stuff for sale. In the final 2 from Ripoff Press, Mother Oates Comics number 3. Sheridan and Schreier, Dave Sheridan, of course, from the Freak Brothers. So this is going to be fantastic. I love the looks of these covers here. It's exactly that style. It's really, really great. That's a good cover. But this final one here, issue number 2 of Mother's Oaths, is just killer. Really, really killer. So yeah, there you go. That is the Comic Con haul. I don't know, pretty successful. My son got himself some What If comics, and like I said, they all got themselves a bunch of Pokemon cards. And at the end of the day, when we kind of made it to the end of the convention center, the hall where all the local artists in the artist alley, all of a sudden it was really nice to see all of their eyes just kind of went, whoa, because there was all these people who had made their own, had their own self-published comics, had some art that they did, the crafts that they did, jewelry that they did, all sorts of things that they've done themselves. And it kind of opened their eyes to, like, because even my son said, wow, I wish because at that point he had spent all his money. He was like, wow, I wish I had some more money. I wish I would have saved some money. I wanted to get some stuff here. And even when we got home, he said next year that he'd like to go to Artist Alley first. So I'm hoping that he remembers that kind of excitement about that discovery, and actually follows through. Sorry, give me one sec. and actually follows through with that and supports some of the artists, and just kind of realizes that sure, this convention has Pokemon and all these other things that you can find fucking everywhere, but I hope he remembers that at the next convention there's a whole lot of other cool shit out there. And starts to, I think he's getting at that age. He's 10 years old now. He's about to turn 11 in December. I think he's getting at that age where the world is going to start opening up a little bit more to him. And I'm excited about that, especially when I saw the three of them. One of his friends that was with us is a big comic book guy. He loves reading comics. He's never been to a comic shop. This was his first comic convention. And at one point he said to me, or my son came to me and said, so he wants you to take him to a couple of comic booths just to kind of show him around and kind of help him find a couple of books. So we went over, the three of us, and he said he wanted to find some Doctor Strange stuff, but he also really liked the X-Men that he's read. So we looked through some discounted graphic novels and hardcovers and just kind of flipped through them together. And I kind of told him some of the stories that I knew. This is what this one's about, and maybe you want to try something like this out. And I think he was really digging it. And again, I think there was a little bit of intimidation on his part of like, when you're so young and you're getting into this hobby, it can be daunting. I mean, it's daunting enough for older people, never mind a kid who's like, I don't really know. And just kind of having a chance to sit and talk to him about like the best thing to do is try out a few books, see which characters you really like. Like if you do really like the X-Men, maybe try a Wolverine comic, or maybe you try something else, or maybe you try a book that has the X-Men and other characters involved in it, like some sort of crossover thing. Then maybe you find out you like those characters, or maybe you try out some of the newer Illuminati stories from the Avengers that have Doctor Strange in it, so then you can get exposure to some of the other characters. And I mean, he was into all of it. At that point, though, they were all pretty wiped out. Yeah, thank you very much, Rez. It was nice to see you. Thanks for coming and staying up extra late for us. So yeah, I mean, I think they're getting to that age, though, where that whole world is kind of opening up to them, and they're going to start just experiencing other things and finding out that there's really cool shit out there. So that was great. Yeah, the Mother's Oats was an awesome one there, Dr. Von Schiller. This one is such a great cover. I really, really like it. You know, that really just says that era to me, especially Ripoff Press has always been one of the staples in my underground comics diet. Good kid. I hope he does remember and act upon it. Yeah, I really hope he does too. I really hope he remembers the excitement that he felt discovering those local artists. Thank you very much, Garrett. I managed to score some gems, no doubt. I was pretty excited about it. Oh, Sleepy Reader, Damien. Hello, Damien. I don't know if you saw my video there, Damien, about these Goblinko guys. I think they're based in Portland. I don't know if you recognize their art. They have a magazine called Pork as well that's apparently free. I paid 25 cents for it, but I guess every 4 months they put out a new issue, and it's kind of art and music and all sorts of things. But I think they're from your neck of the woods there. Bye, Rez. Yeah, so... Oh, you got a copy of Pork, but haven't even looked in it yet. Yeah, it's pretty great. The issue that I managed to pick up was this one right here, issue number 24. And again, the only reason I picked it up was because they had, because I'm backing their board game, and they had an adventure, a demo adventure, Quest for Sausage of Dungeon Degenerates. I was looking on their site again today, and I see they have a few more issues that are priced at like 25 cents a piece. So I might order a bunch more. Some of the early stuff has gotten up really big in price. but there's even some that are kind of $5. They do have a subscription service available too, but it was pretty pricey to get it up here to Canada. So I don't know if I'd go that route, but it looks like whenever they have a new issue that comes out, they just kind of charge you 25 cents for it if you want a copy. So I might do that because, I mean, like I said, their art really works for me. We just put up a bunch of the Halloween decorations that I bought from them. Yeah, it's almost treasury size, but it's nice. It's kind of just newsprint, you know what I mean? And then just filled with all their crazy shit, and then a whole bunch of comics from a whole bunch of artists. And you know, it's been going since 1999, they say on the inside cover. And it's kind of this family, this husband and wife. They got their kids involved now as well, because their kids appear in this as well. And just a bunch of really great shit. I was reading through it last night, just bits and pieces here and there. And it looks a lot of fun. Yeah, it's completely punk rock looking, absolutely, which is part of the appeal of the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to really tell you guys. That's pretty much the haul. I'm looking around if there's anything else, but that's pretty much it. Yeah, I don't remember seeing it around till recently. Yeah, I mean, it's maybe one of those things, hey, maybe it's just now kind of getting more circulation. Maybe it only appeared at a couple of record shops, or I don't really know how. From what I understand, obviously I don't know, from what I understand about your neck of the world there, there's a lot of kind of creativity that happens down in Portland, even for music that I've liked, experimental music and noise and things like that. There's quite a few guys that come from that kind of area. So maybe it's just the overabundance of stuff that maybe some things get lost. I don't know. I mean, in a place like Winnipeg, if this was hanging around, this would get seen, because there's nothing, absolutely nothing like this here, you know. So and it's funny though, when we were putting up the decorations today, yeah, from what I understand, Damien, it's always been in this format, or at least when I've looked online, but you could very well be right. Maybe it was printed in a smaller kind of comic sized issue, or maybe it's just now getting into comic shops. Yeah, exactly. Maybe it just had a really niche kind of market, a record store, a punk rock type of record store, or heavy metal record store, you know. When we were putting up the decorations, his style of art is just really accessible, and it has this really good feel to it. It kind of, the whole family was kind of sitting around cutting this stuff out and putting them up on the windows and everything to add to our already Halloween decorated house. And it kind of just gave us ideas. It's one of those kind of styles, and one of that kind of, you run into this art every once in a while, or these kind of creative types, and it just makes you want to do more yourself. So we already started talking about maybe next year for Halloween, we make our own little goodie bags where we can do our own little kind of drawings, and maybe we do our own little decorations, and maybe we try to make some stickers we were talking about, and have kind of like a goodie bag in like even like a paper bag that's stapled with some drawings on it or something to hand out to the kids instead of having candy, you know. But yeah, so it's great when you discover stuff like that. And that's how I feel about the undergrounds too. It's just stuff that, I don't know, you see these people doing it. It was interesting on the way home. We were just kind of talking about the convention, me and my son, and he was asking me about underground comics and what are underground comics and why do they call them that. And I was talking about the history and the kind of topics that they tackle, about how they talked about sex so openly, and even there was stuff at the time they were talking about homosexuality really openly, and drug use. And his first question is like, well, how did they get around the comics code? Wasn't there a comics code? I'm like, yes, there absolutely was. And these guys were a response to, they didn't want anything to do with the comics code. They just wanted to be creative, and they wanted to do things themselves. And again, it was another moment I could see his little gears in his head working, you know. Really, really good. So, I mean, this was the year of eye-opening things for my son, I think, which is pretty exciting. And I mean, you know, his friends are just good old nerd kids as well too. I mean, his core group of friends are just really good kids. Dr. Von Chilla, fading fast. Go to bed now. Go pass out. Thanks a lot for staying up to hang out. I'm glad you managed to make it. I love that your son knows about the comics code. Yeah, I thought it was pretty great as well too. that was kind of his first question. But Dad, isn't there a code? um, and we were talking also today, they still do their version of Dungeons and Dragons. They're still creating characters and creating stories, even though the Dungeons and Dragons starter kit that I gave him still sits on his shelf. He's never really looked through it. They just are fully into doing their own thing. So showing him all this stuff, I haven't shown, like we haven't, sorry, I didn't mean that. I haven't shown him the underground comics. They're far too adult for him to see right now. But showing them the Artist Alley, for example, at the comic convention, and him seeing that there are people out there who are creating their own comics, who are selling their own products and just having their own little community, I think was good for him to see. I just wish that there were more events like this that I could take him to. The Comic Arts Festival at the public library is happening again. I think in March is what she was saying. I'm blanking. Hope Nicholson is her name, that does this bedside press. The same woman who is crowdfunding this on Kickstarter. She was saying that it's going to happen in March. So I think I'll try to take him to this next one so he can get exposure to this again. I could probably show him things like Reed Fleming for sure. Yeah. And I've got some sort of underground stuff that might be kind of, or maybe not underground, but maybe like ground level type comics that I could for sure show him. Some more indie type of stuff. Even if it's like the Pacific and Eclipse comics, I wonder if there's some things in there that we could kind of read together. It's worth going through. I mean, not only has this trip opened his eyes, it's opened my eyes to kind of how he is starting to question things and how he is starting to kind of want to look outside the boundaries of things. So it might be worth going through my collection and picking out some other books to read with him if it is interesting. But I do have some Reed Fleming, so that might be something to try out for him to see if he likes it. There was also that Ralph Snart, but I think that might be a little too intense for him. Yeah, I mean, there might even be some underground books that are, yeah, I don't know, because even the horror ones might be a little too intense, even though there's some of the horror stories that aren't really brutally violent or sexual. They might still be a little intense. Totally. And I think that's what was that all of them were realizing going down Artist Alley, like, wow, we could do this kind of stuff. I mean, they've always, as I think I mentioned before in videos, they've always talked about designing their own video games. They made their own kind of Pokemon cards. You know, they took that idea and made cards themselves. My son designed his own card game. We've talked about making games ourselves, that sort of thing. The Prairie thing might be going to be 2 days. Oh, that would be great if it was a 2-day event instead of a 1-day event like it was this year. That would be fantastic, because one of the things that I was hoping for was longer panels. Instead of having kind of a half-hour talk or a 45-minute talk, if they could do like an hour and a half or something, have the panels spread out over a couple of days. But I think all the kids are realizing that there's things they can do themselves. So now it's trying to kind of keep that momentum up, that excitement up, and kind of going through that and just having them follow up on it and create something. Either way, it's a damn good time. So I'm really glad that we made it. It's the longest I've ever spent at this convention. We were there because we were kind of an hour and a half earlier than they managed to show up, the other people managed to show up. I think we ended up being there for like 5.5 hours, which is pretty crazy. I was drained by the end of it. But he had a blast the first time he's gone with his friends. So he had a really, really good time. And then tomorrow we go trick-or-treating with the same group of guys too. So that'll be fun to see that. It'll be the first time I've actually gone trick-or-treating with the group of them, because usually I'm working or, you know, that sort of thing, or it's not our year because we switch Halloween. years with my ex-wife, although it's all starting to meld right now. We're all kind of doing more events together, even with them and their new family and our new family, kind of spending a lot of time together too, here and there. So that's kind of a nice thing as well. Yeah, I mean, that's all I got. Damien, if you want to go back and watch the first half there, you'll see all my haul. Lots of undergrounds and a couple of other goodies, including some Comics Journal and then a bunch of local stuff too, which was really exciting. I think for me, though, the hit, just to kind of end on this note, the hit was this local Giants Well is what it's called, by Scott A. Ford. And it's a accordion style. You can read it like this, or you can, I think it unfolds to 20 feet or something. So you can unfold the whole comic and go down the well with the characters in the story. And he's a really amazing young artist here in town that I'm amazed that he finally managed to put this together, and I'm really impressed. So that was kind of one of the highlights for me, for sure, running into these guys again and seeing them. And then there was some other people there that I hadn't seen before, some local artists, but I just didn't have any more time because it's trying to wrangle the kids and keep an eye on them and stuff. You kind of miss some time to sit and talk with some people. That's it. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in, you guys. Garrett, Damien, thanks for sticking around. Have a good night, fellas. And next weekend, hoping to kind of get a chat in with Rez. Yeah, I don't have my son next weekend. He's got a bunch of parties. He's going to birthday parties next weekend, including his other sister's birthday party. But yeah, I'll be around and maybe do some more chatting and things. I was hoping to do the YouTube Stamp Club in November, but because work is starting up for me in November, I don't think I'm going to be able to start that project. That might be a next year project. I do still want to have a volume 2 of that Stamp Club, but it'll probably be January, February, something like that. I'll kind of make announcements when I get closer. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Good night, and we'll talk to you.